Welcome back to Rubbin'minds. Now, Nigeria leads the way when it comes to education, and not in the way you're thinking, in a negative way, with over 10 million out-of-school children, the highest in the world. And it breaks my heart going down the road and seeing children who are meant to be in school, hawking, begging, and just getting up to so much mischief. And this crisis, a silent one, has continued to persist. And it begs the question, what is the government doing? What is the solution? How can we get more children in school? There's the whole talk about free education, but why are children still out on the streets? To discuss this, I have with me Precious Ifeanyichukwu, a girls global coach. Welcome to Rubbin'minds.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And we also have a social worker, Olushola Tejosho. Welcome to Rubbin'minds.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for accepting our invitation, and we'll go right into the conversation on this silent crisis. I know probably when you were coming here over the week, you see these children out on the streets begging, hawking, and it's become common. And why has this persisted? Why are the numbers so high? And I'll start with you, Precious.
Okay, I think it's first a problem of negligence. We have played norm to these things. So from there, we normalized it. So from just seeing it as, oh, it's normal, we're now numb. We see children on the street hawking. We see children sleeping under the bridges. And we just see it as a normal thing. And if, as it is continuing, we are having a generation that is disconnected from the entire country. They don't know what's going on. Their voices don't matter. You don't find them in any statistics. They are just outside. And it's majorly a problem of negligence, both on the part of the country, our leaders, and on the part of families, because they're also coming from families. We do not just have children who are on the streets. We also have children who are hawking, who are doing menial jobs when they are supposed to be in schools. So we have some parents who are neglecting their major responsibility, which is to take care of the kids. And we also have the country, our government, our leaders, neglect these things as if they don't matter. But the problem is, it will matter very soon.
Definitely, our children are the future of this country, and if we want a better Nigeria, we need to invest in the future.
Yeah.
I'll move to you, Olushola. Nigerians have become a bit cold to this reality, to this silent crisis, and it's because you look on the streets and every day it's a different child, but there are stories. These people matter. They come from a home. Can you share a story of maybe a boy or a girl that you've encountered on the street, someone that has gone through this whole out-of-school experience?
Well, it's a complicated discourse, but the painful reality is that we as a people and as government, we need to do more about it. By the virtue of what I do, being a social worker, and majorly I work with people who are having issues with substance use. I've come across a whole lot of them, and I've seen several of them who were out-of-school children. They ended up being on the street. And because of that, they became homeless. And because of that, they were introduced to substance use. And some of them eventually will go into other terrible vices, like courtesan, like other things like that. So these are the problems that we are having in society. And back to your question, yes, I've seen about not less than 5 to 10 of them who were practically living on the street. They were away from their parents, they didn't look out for them, and they ended up just being on the street at the Bar Beach, the old Bar Beach then. And they spent quite a number of years then before they were able to be brought into our rehab center then by an NGO, and they were able to cater for them, try to rehab them, and eventually few of them they are doing well today. So we have a lot of them, and even till now, the problem is not going down, but rather it's increasing. Because 10 million is not so much, it's not cheap.
No, 10 million is more than the population of some countries. Exactly. And imagine that resource just
being lost.
Yes, being lost, literally.
That's about more than the whole population of Togo. Yes.
You know, the government says education is free, and yet children are not in schools. They even go a step further to say, oh, you know what, children are not in school because we're not feeding them, and they've done all these school feeding programs to ensure children are in school. There's universal basic education. But Why aren't these children attending classes?
Well, a lot of those are government propaganda. They are just political stimulations. They do that sometimes to gain attention of the public. But away from that, on the other hand, some of those are also actually real policies that have been put in place, decisions that the government has made, but they're not followed up on. There is no accountability. There is no follow-up system. There is no one making sure that these things are done. And most times, even when they get started, when we actually start doing them, we stop on the way because one government goes and then another comes and they trust the entire policies of the previous. So you see the situation where I know of states where public schools are being sold to private individuals and they do what they want with it. So you see some children who were there, who were, their parents were able to pay the little stipend and, they could get educated. They're lost out. They're the ones losing out because their parents may not be able to afford the education going forward. So the problem is that yes, there are policies and there are things that government is actually doing to make sure that our children are educated. We don't have them on the streets, but we're not doing enough. Sadly so. We're not doing enough, and we actually need to do more. We need to not just create those policies, those programs. We also need to follow up on them and make sure that teachers are also well paid. Schools are well equipped. Our children are going to school. I remember there was a particular state governor back in the years in Abia State who would literally walk on the street. If you are on the streets in the morning, he's going to flog you. And if you are late, he's going to flog you. If a child is on the street and probably they're poor or something, he's going to make sure that that child goes back to school. I mean, that might be an extreme, exercise, but we need to take more responsibility to ensure that our children, we're not just saying we're educating them, we're providing all of that, we're also ensuring that it is actually done.
And I'll move to you, Olushola. What about parents who use their children to make money? So they have a mandate. Whether it's to go and beg for alms, or whether it's to hawk, or whether it's to go around with someone who is blind and seek favors, or to go and clean the windscreens of cars. I mean, there are parents who have employed their children to make money, and that's why they can't go to school. Have you encountered such? What can the government do, and how can we hold these parents responsible?
Well, it is very, very dicey, but unfortunately, a lot still needs to be done about these out-of-school children. Now, like my colleague here rightly said, a lot of propaganda out there, but unfortunately for us, there is a policy in place, the UBEC policy, a fantastic policy, but implementation is just a zero. By the virtue of UBEC, UBEC is a Universal Basic Education Commission. Ideally, this is a platform that's ordinarily well implemented. No child should be out of school. No child. Because the funding for UBEC is so fantastic that it's automated, whereby it comes from CFR, Consolidated Revenue Fund, CRF. And that's 2% of whatever that comes to the consolidated account. That is what goes to UBEC automatically. And it's being managed by the commission. So every state ought to automatically have access to it. But they must do that with counterfeit fund. That is, they have their own part to also play before they can access the fund. But by the time you now look at the implementation process, from UBEC to SUPERB to AGA, there's a gap. So this gap is what we are actually seeing outside. The gap that they are unable to close is the aftermath of what you are all seeing on the street now, whereby you see children on the street and everywhere. And the reason why we have influx of these children on the street now is because of, number one, poverty. That's the greatest one. In fact, that is the chunk of the problem. We have other factors, other drivers there, but poverty is a very serious one. And when you have poverty, that is why you push a lot of parents to begin to push their children outside so that they can be able to meet up with their financial demand. Do you understand? So poverty is one. Then number two, as a society, we have failed. And what do I mean? When we were growing up, if a child is not in school or walking on the street during school hour, community will rally around and ask questions. But now, we just assume it doesn't concern me. And that is the problem. And this thing is just increasing every day. The progress is progressive in nature now. So we have failed. Then another reason why it looks as if it's so common now is because of even government capacity to be able to properly enforce some of this policy they are also putting in place. If it's a crime, I think it should be a crime for a parent not to send a child to school, but nothing is really being done on the part of the government.
Yeah, I know in other climes abroad, if you don't send your children to school,
Oh,
social services
they will come after you.
Will come after you, and they will take the child from you. So you don't even have access to the child to send them out to make money. And, very important points have been raised. But when we look at the effects, these children are on the streets. They are exposed to all sorts of vices.
Absolutely.
They are getting up to a lot of mischief. And as a result, like you said, they are lost. But 10 years down the line, like what you said earlier, we're going to pay for it because these people will grow up and become, they're going to be a menace to society. And why aren't we paying attention to that? What should we be doing? How should government be treating this silent crisis?
Yeah, you already said that. They are the children on the streets, they are taking bombs. And if we are not careful, they will detonate. And we don't want to know what the outcome can look like. We already see that happening, right? Cases like kidnapping, drug abuse, armed robbery. So if you think you're safe in your home, you're not, because that child on the street will get hungry, will need things, and they'll find a way to get them. So we actually need to begin to pay attention to this thing as a society. And like he said, we need to stop neglecting them and start thinking, what can we do? And like you already mentioned, the government, we can come in a lot more. We can be more responsible. We can look at them. I mean, they could be on the street as a result of poverty, but we can change the narrative. They can stay there for a day, 2 days, 1 week, but we can decide that, okay, let's do something. What are the programs? What are the policies we're going to put in place? What are the activities? How do we ensure that we take them out of the street? Not just take them out, engage them meaningfully so that they become, meaningful part of the society. They are doing something with their lives. And how do they say that? And a lazy person is a devil's workshop. So when you're doing nothing, devil starts to, give you ideas and suggestions of what to do. How about trying drugs? How about? So before you know that, a 10-year-old is getting into things that a 50-year-old cannot think of. So we need to begin to do that. And this is also a call to, the government to begin to do something about our out-of-school children. They can't help themselves. So we need to help them. They are our responsibility. And if we continue to neglect them, they will detonate, because that's a time bomb. And it's not going to help. It's not going to be, it won't be a very funny sight.
Yeah. I think it's becoming very obvious now, because once you neglect the problem, 5 years, 10 years down the line, these are the people who are engaged in all sorts of vices. I'll move to you. In your own experience, how can the government support the work of NGOs, of CSOs? How can the government ensure that there are people who need children, who want to adopt? In other climes, there's a foster care system. There's the child protection services. Do we have that in Nigeria? Do we have such measures?
Okay, well, government can come in different ways, but the problem is overwhelming even for government, especially when you consider migration, rural-urban migration. People migrate to the cities every day. They come in their numbers. Cities like Lagos, like Kano, like Port Harcourt, people migrate from the rural area every day. And when they migrate, they come with the intention of trying to look for better opportunities. But no planning, no proper planning. There's shortage of housing, no good job. Sometimes when they come, they discover that their capacity to be able to meet up with the demand of the city is not actually there for them. And in that note, they just push those children outside. So even no matter the policy the government is trying to make, as long as there's a wide gap between what's happening in the rural and urban, the migration will continue. And the more we have the migration, then the more we continue to have this kind of problem. Do you understand? That is one. Then two, government also need to strengthen our policy. They must back it up with with stringent rules and conditions to ensure that whatever policy they put in place, it's very easy to make any policy and just leave it on the paper.
That they have to be enforced, yes,
and
and
they have
be
to enforce
implemented.
it. That is true. Then lastly, which is also very, very important, like you say, yes, we have foster parents outside. We also have it here. At this Lagos State, to an extent, have very, very good, robust legislation, especially when it comes to the issue of adoption, orphanages, and the likes. So I think other states just try to take a cue from what Lagos State is doing in that area, so that they can look at how they can be able to assist people in that area.
Sadly, we're out of time. Thank you very much, Olushola Tejosho and Precious Ifeanyi Chukwu, for your contributions on Rubbin'minds.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
And we hope that the government will step up to addressing this silent crisis of street children and out-of-school children. The show will return after this quick break. Don't go anywhere.